First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out today, but I especially want to thank all the people who are standing behind me, because they were the ones who, when I asked if I could come sit in their living rooms or sit in their kitchens or sit in the parlors of their churches and talk to them about what we could do to enhance and expand opportunity here in Massachusetts, they said yes. Some of these folks I knew, some of them I didn't. But when I got into this race, I said one of the things that was most important to me as governor was closing what I call the opportunity gap here in Massachusetts. For too many people in Massachusetts, geography is destiny. And we need to do a better job as a Commonwealth making Massachusetts great, not just here or here, but everywhere.
Yes.
And the conversations and the dialogue that came out of these meetings, and there were many of them, around education and economic development and housing and public safety and criminal justice, informed in a very significant way many of our economic development and education plans. And anybody who's read our pretty comprehensive economic development plan will see pieces of virtually everything that people have talked about here today. Because those, in many respects, represent some of the very best ideas that I collected as a candidate looking to build solutions to bring the kind of opportunity that's present in many parts of Massachusetts to all of Massachusetts, including communities like this one.
Yes.
These are not Republican, Democrat, or independent ideas. And Bill, I can't imagine what it must be like to run and win with 3 different letters next to your name. But if I had to pick the one guy who could pull that off, it would be you. And Your Honor, I especially appreciate your willingness to spend several hours of one of your evenings sitting in a crowded living room in Brockton talking about some of the issues you raised here today. We have so far to go on thinking differently, especially about addiction and substance abuse. And it's one of the reasons why we've made major proposals on this issue and continue to talk about it as we campaign across the Commonwealth. It's interesting. I've probably talked to every sheriff in Massachusetts about addiction. And almost to a person, they've told me that somewhere between 50 and 80% of the people who are in their facility are there because of a substance abuse or an addiction issue. 50 to 80%. And those that have put together, usually on a pilot basis, programs that are designed to help people deal with their addiction first and develop some of the skills that they need once in recovery to be self-sufficient when they leave, have seen their recidivism rates drop by an extraordinary percentage. And this is not just happening in Massachusetts. This is a great example of where we can learn from what's gone on in other states. Progressive Massachusetts is actually significantly behind the curve with respect to where other states are taking criminal justice reform, recidivism issues, addiction, and what I call the pathway back for folks coming out of prison. It's a big opportunity for us, and it's one we shouldn't miss. My interest in this issue comes right back to the core of this campaign for me. This is a great state. It's filled with great people from one end to the other. But there are too many folks in Massachusetts and too many places in Massachusetts that don't feel the same vibe that exists in many of our communities. We will not be a truly great state until everybody who wants to work can, until every child, when they get sent out the door to go to school in the morning, gets to go to a school where they're going to get the kind of education on which they can build a life.
Yes.
And where everybody lives in a community where they really do believe tomorrow's going to be better than today.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, I got asked at one of these visioning sessions that we had a couple of Friday nights ago, just down the street from here. The question was something like, so how do we know you're going to follow through on any of this? And I said, I promise you this will not be the last time you see me. I have made friends and learned much from the people in these communities that I've had an opportunity to get to know. And they deserve a state government that's as focused on creating economic opportunity and educational excellence in their neighborhoods as everybody else.
Yes.
And they're going to get it in a Baker administration. Thank you very much. Do you have questions for me or for any of the other folks who are here?
Charlie, Democrats have been criticizing your record on welfare reform, saying
Yep.
through the Wells administration you cut benefits, let fraud cases languish. How do you respond to that?
There were several studies that were done back then, independent studies that showed that the folks that we helped transition off of public assistance actually did better and made more once they got off public assistance than they had when they were on. And I'm very proud of the fact that we were the first administration to significantly expand the Commonwealth's commitment to child care for people who needed to go to work, and we also significantly expanded, working again on a bipartisan basis with the legislature, to expand health care coverage so that people wouldn't lose their health benefits when they took a job. And I spent a lot of time over the course of this race talking to people who are on public assistance, and the thing that's interesting to me is they don't like the system either. They basically say it's you're all in or you're all out, and there's no way to sort of get to self-sufficiency. And the reform proposal that we made back in March actually contains many of the elements, thankfully, that were part of the bipartisan welfare reform bill that passed the legislature at the end of this past session. And I would look forward as governor to having an opportunity to implement that, because I believe our ultimate goal here ought to be to help people find a way to self-sufficiency.
Why is it an issue that you continue to push, as you mentioned, that many of the reforms that you and the priorities that you put out earlier in the spring have been passed by the legislature? So some would ask why continue to kind of push this as an issue if it's been reformed the way that you would like it to?
Well, I think it's important to make clear to people that I'm going to be an enthusiastic proponent of implementing the reforms. And that look, when you're a candidate, you make proposals on a lot of things. But it's actually kind of exciting when a whole series of proposals that you made actually get translated and turned into law over the course of that campaign by a sitting legislature on a bipartisan basis and signed by the governor. And I look forward to having an opportunity to work with people to implement those reforms, because I think it's important that we help people find their way to self-sufficiency. I'm telling you, I've talked to a lot of folks on public assistance during the course of this campaign. I haven't found one yet who likes being there. They want to get off public assistance just as much as everybody else.
Did those conversations help influence the priorities that you came up with? I mean,
Oh, absolutely. Yes. The reform proposal that we developed was absolutely driven not just by folks that we met on public assistance, but folks we met in public housing, folks who worked in public housing, folks who worked in transitional assistance programs, folks who worked in job training programs. We talked to a lot of different people as we developed those proposals.
Charlie, the Democrats are going after you for this outsourcing award. You were honored for this deal.
Yep.
How do you respond to that?
You know, I'm proud of the partnership we developed with Perot Systems, which saved thousands of jobs here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts directly at Harvard Pilgrim, and thousands of other jobs as well. And I'm proud of the fact that those jobs, for the most part, continue to be here in Massachusetts. Go talk to the folks in Quincy and the folks in Wellesley if you don't believe me on that one. And I got to tell you something. I am incredibly disappointed generally with the thrust and the nature of the Attorney General's campaign. I have spent almost the entire race here talking about things we can do, real things we can do, to improve the quality of life for the people of Massachusetts from one end to the other. And we've put out policy proposals, some of which have been adopted, some of which we would hope to pursue on a collaborative basis if I'm fortunate enough to get elected as governor. But over and over and over again, all I hear from the Attorney General is negative things about stuff that happened years ago that's taken completely out of context. And I would like to see the Attorney General make this race about what she thinks can make Massachusetts better than it is today for the people of Massachusetts.
It was not a matter of trying to pull the company out of bankruptcy.
There are
How do you
still
respond to
today,
that?
Janet, thousands of people working here in the Commonwealth of Mass for Harvard Pilgrim and now Dell instead of Perot Systems, and I'm proud of the fact that it continues to be a major employer and a best place to work according to every study that gets done. And by the way, the #1 player in terms of customer service nationally and member satisfaction. It's a great organization, and I'm not going to let some smear diminish what the people at Harvard Pilgrim and Perot have accomplished.
Charlie, building on that, I mean, when you were in the Weld administration,
What the people at Harvard Pilgrim and Perot have accomplished.
Charlie, building on the administration, when you were in the Weld.
It's from one end to the other. To enhance and Perot have accomplished. What the people at Harvard Pilgrim
Administration, when you were in the Weld.
accomplished.
Charlie, building on.
It's from one end to the other. To enhance and Perot have accomplished. What the people at Harvard Pilgrim
When you were in the Weld administration,
accomplished.
Charlie, building on.
To enhance and
When you were in the Weld.
accomplished.
Charlie, building on. Administration,
What the people at Harvard Pilgrim to enhance and
when you were in the Weld.
to enhance and
When you were in the Weld.
what the people at Harvard Pilgrim
Administration,
accomplished.
Charlie, building on.
What the people at Harvard Pilgrim
Administration, when you were in the Weld.
accomplished.
Charlie, building on.
To enhance and what the people at Harvard Pilgrim
Administration, when you were in the Weld.
and Perot have accomplished.
Charlie, building on.
What the people at Harvard Pilgrim to enhance and
when you were in the Weld.
and Perot have accomplished.
Charlie, building on.
What the people at Harvard Pilgrim to enhance and
when you were in the Weld.
and Perot have accomplished.